Good morning. My name is Joseph Richardson, Joseph, Richardson, Richardson. I'm a partner at McCune Wright Aravallo Law Firm. I am here today with Paige Griffin, Paige Paige. That's right, isn't it?
Correct.
Griffin, Griffin. She will be making a brief statement later, but she will not be answering any questions. I'll speak, then Paige will speak. I'll say a bit more, and then we'll take a few questions. We're here for a few reasons. First, we're here because of what happened to Paige Griffin, which will be talked about. Next, it's not just about what happened to Paige Griffin, but about how she's being treated by Cal State University, San Bernardino. Then we'll talk about our desire to understand to what extent what's going on with her is part of a larger culture, Cal State San Bernardino in particular, but perhaps even the Cal State system in general. Not only related to sexual harassment, sexual assault, but related to treatment by Cal State of those that complain about it. Treatment that's unfair, retaliatory, and we believe illegal. A bit of backstory. We took on the representation several weeks ago, and based on what Paige let us know had happened to her. Paige is a 6-year employee at Cal State San Bernardino, and she was sexually assaulted while in an isolated area where she works. There was no one in her line of sight, and there was no one around. That was on March the 1st. She was forcibly kissed by a worker in another department. Now, she reported the incident right away, talked to the campus police, did an interview for the campus police, and she has had issues on campus before which made her feel less safe. Now, we understand the investigations are still taking place related to the incident. We also believe that the perpetrator is on paid leave, and sitting here today, Paige is on unpaid leave. Paige is seeking to press charges against the perpetrator. Now, with the help of her campus advocate, she asked to be moved, even if temporarily, from the section that she was working in, which is the facilities department. Specifically, she asked, pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement, which Article 23.8 states the following, and I quote, "An employee may request a temporary reassignment when he or she believes in good faith that his or her present assignment presents a clear danger to his or her health or safety. That the appropriate administrator shall promptly respond to such a request," and I emphasize the following: such a request shall not be unreasonably denied during the preliminary aspect of any investigation. As Paige will state in a moment, beginning from the time of the incident, she took vacation and sick time to be off work due to the trauma of the incident. All the while, she aggressively sought the opportunity to work in an environment where she felt safe, which would either be another department for the time being or telecommuting from home. She actually tried to, with all of her vacation time and sick time taken up, she tried to come to work on March 21st into the section where she worked before because there had been no accommodation otherwise. But she found that environment to be a trigger of anxiety and fear. She has not worked since. To this point, the requests that she made, which are reasonable requests, which are requests in good faith, which are requests that frankly we believe should be granted, have fallen on deaf ears. She's found herself threatened with disciplinary action for missing work 5 days in a row due to the trauma of the incident. As of this time, she still seeks a leave status that would allow her to receive paid time off and would allow her vacation time and her sick pay, at the vacation time at the very least, to be reimbursed. There is no accommodation putting her in another department despite what we believe to be the availability of 150 to 200 open jobs on campus, several of which fit in the category that she works in. There's no allowance to telecommute or work from home, despite the fact that most of the department that she is in does that every day. And as a matter of fact, she did it for a year and a half. She telecommuted, worked from home virtually for a year and a half during the pandemic. Now, Ms. Griffin's honesty and reach out for help seems to have been met with indifference, insensitivity, and tone deafness at best, and what we believe to be violations of law at worst. While we understand people are on paid leave pending an investigation, the irony is not lost on us that this situation would have the perpetrator home on paid leave, but our client home on unpaid leave, with her status threatened before her effectively working her way up to the unpaid leave that she sits on right now. We have filed a Department of Fair Employment and Housing claim, DFEH claim, where we allege sexual harassment, failure to accommodate, among other things, and failure to prevent harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. We believe our client is being discriminated against, harassed, and or retaliated against due to her sex and gender, health condition, and disability. As part of our due diligence, we always look to see if the issue our client may be having is part of a larger problem in the workplace. Interestingly, while we normally try to find information about these larger issues, in this case, it seems that that information has found us. As many people know, we've seen issues occur lately on CSU campuses, or at least they've been coming out, including issues pertaining to sexual harassments, soft landings, at the highest levels, Sonoma State, Fresno State, and et cetera. This has caused us to look at how others at CSUSB in general, in particular, and maybe even the entire Cal State system are being treated as well. We'll talk more about this in a moment. For now, I will give Paige Griffin the opportunity to make a statement, and this is the only statement, like I said before, this is the only statement she'll make.
I'm Paige Griffin. I'm 31 years old. I've worked at CSUSB for 6 years, and I love my job. I work in the facilities management department as an administrative support coordinator. At work, I'm stationed in a secluded area where no other employees are in line of sight. Most of our department works remotely, which I did as well for 18 months of the pandemic. And there are 4 separate doors where people may enter the building. On March 1st, I was sexually assaulted by a worker from another department who had access through one of the doors, which are all unlocked. The person involved, while talking to me, took off my mask and forcefully kissed me. At the time of the incident, there was no one else around. I immediately reported the incident to campus police and did an interview for the campus police that day. I have had issues on campus before which have all been reported. Those issues already made me feel less safe at work. There was a previous incident with the same individual which I had verbally reported to the associate vice president. There was never a formal response to my complaint. Another issue I reported involving a different individual resulted in a no contact order being issued against the person. I have sought to do the best job I could do every day, but women too often have to deal with catcalling, unwanted comments, and sexually suggestive gestures in the workplace. I am one of those women. I want to be clear that I did nothing or said nothing that could be reasonably taken by this person as an invitation for him to remove my mask and to forcibly kiss me. Me knowing who the person is, saying hello to him, even talking to and interacting with him at work was never an open door to do what ultimately happened. Sexual assault is always wrong. I am pressing charges against the perpetrator. As of last Monday, we were told that the police report from Cal State Police Department had been sent to the DA's office. The DA's office has not confirmed the receipt of the report. Per the section of Article 20 23.8 of our collective bargaining unit with the help of my campus advocate. I immediately asked to be moved, even temporarily, to another department pending investigation. From March 1st to March 8th, I used my vacation and sick time to be off work due to the trauma of the incident. I was not granted a paid leave status, not allowed to work remotely, and not moved to another department. By March 21st, all of my vacation time and sick time was exhausted, so I attempted to come back to work, but because of the incident, I felt overwhelming fear, anxiety, and nervousness, and was not able to work. I was left in the same situation when this incident happened. Days after that, I was threatened with disciplinary action for missing 5 days of work in a row. During the entire time since the incident, I have cooperated fully with the CSU departments involved, including HR. Meanwhile, I have constantly sought a protected leave status and have filled out workers' comp and disability paperwork with no response. By email, I asked Mr. President Morales of CSUSB and the Chancellor to demonstrate their oft-stated commitment to the health and safety and well-being of each member of the CSU community by allowing me to work in another section temporarily or work remotely. These requests have also been, have not been granted despite that fact. The fact that most people in my department work remotely, and I did too for 18 months during the pandemic. There's also 170 open positions as of last week that I could have been reassigned to. I have also asked that my personal vacation and sick time, which I have been forced to exhaust because of the assault, to be restored. CSUSB has offered me non-industrial disability status, which I cannot agree to because my issue took place at work. I was offered an accommodation that kept me in the same building that now triggers my anxiety and my fear, which is a tone-deaf response that effectively ignores what I've been through, and I therefore could not take. I told them this, and yet there has been no further response. I was allowed to work remotely one day. Ironically, most of my department works remotely, which is why facilities management section is so empty, and is why I was usually left alone in my section of the building. I am told that the university's investigation of the incident is ongoing, and I believe the perpetrator is on paid leave status since March 1st. While the trauma I experienced on campus as a result of the sexual assault is real, the trauma including anxiety and fear that I face daily because of CSUSB's treatment since the incident adds insult to injury. The fact is, had I not reported the incident, I would still be at work. As a single person supporting myself, and like so many others, I need my job and pay that it provides. I also need to feel secure at my workplace. And I need to be in an environment where standing against sexual harassment and sexual assault is not only talked about, but actually carried out by our employers. I'm home, I'm not at work, and I'm scared because I don't know how this ends. And like I've said before, this is my trauma and this is my life. But I'm strong because I know that even though this affects me, being here today isn't really about me. I can only imagine how many other women or people have dealt with something like this, and they're afraid to speak up due to the retaliation. I spoke up and I'm being retaliated against. I'm an optimist, and I believe if someone at Cal State or anywhere that is suffering in silence can be helped by what I'm facing now. You're strong and you can do it too. I'm strong. Thank you.
Just a couple more phrases here before we, thank you, Paige, first of all, thank you. And I admire your strength and I appreciate it. Before I take a couple questions, as she said, sexual harassment and sexual assault is at all levels of society, but it's truly saddening that this is happening in what's supposed to be a forward-thinking environment where people are educated and people are learning or in learning mode, particularly one where 2/3 of the students are actually women. Victims should not be penalized. It's sad that we have victims at all, but it's worse when they stand up and report what happened and are penalized because of it. As I said, victims should not be penalized, but Paige Griffin is being penalized. Predictably, looking around the corner, they may say that this is a person that Ms. Griffin knew, talked to, or may have acted friendly toward. However, nothing, N-O-T-H-I-N-G, nothing justifies sexual assault or sexual harassment. Predictably, the school may explain that Paige had some kind of negative mark on her employment record that keeps them from allowing her to telecommute. However, the notion that she should be unsafe because of such a rule under these circumstances is incredulous. What CSUSB cannot agree with, however, is the fact that if she had not complained, she would be at work. That is indisputable. And the fact that I have to say it at all is unconscionable. How many people, I ask out loud, are in Paige's circumstance and have the same, and fear the same potential treatment after seeing what she's dealt with, and they're staying silent because of it? That's why we're investigating whether other victims of harassment and assault within CSU's ranks may have been penalized for bringing these types of incidents forward. And if those traumatic experiences have been minimized, have been minimized to protect the reputation of the university. Specifically, we're looking at instances where victims exist and are victimized further, adding insult to that injury by their treatment, through their treatment by campus representatives. We seek the public's help in understanding the extent to which this is a larger problem. We also say that we support the calls to the CSU trustees, which have been pretty loud and statewide, for honest evaluation and transparency system-wide, including the evaluation of the effectiveness of Title IX investigations systems-wide. With that, I'll take a couple questions. Yes, sir.
Have you guys filed a claim
Which one?
against CSU San Bernardino that would be a precursor to a lawsuit?
We have. We filed that claim and we await the rejection. We've also filed a DFEH claim, which I think I said before. And incidentally, we've also filed the Title IX as well as the 1096. She has filed everything she could possibly claim. And basically, once the rejection happens, which of course we expect with Cal State on the public entity claim, which is what you're talking about, then we will be free to file a lawsuit.
To your knowledge, the case is at the DA's office right now, and what's the status of that? It sounds like you don't know.
We don't. Basically, last Monday was the last time. It was so traumatic for her dealing with it. I actually told her to stop calling and following up. And so as of that time, on the same day, she called both the representative of the Cal State San Bernardino Police Department as well as the DA. Cal State San Bernardino Police Department said it has been sent to the DA. The DA says we don't have it yet. And so that's where things stood as far as we knew. We know that sometimes those things take time, but it's certainly out of her hands, and the Cal State Police have implied that it's out of theirs in terms of them having sent it to Cal State, to the DA for review.
Are you aware of any other evidence to support these allegations, or at the end of the day, could this be a he said, she said?
We believe that, we'll put it this way, we're very comfortable with why we took the case. We don't believe it's a he said, she said. We believe that if you do, I know you do your homework, into the investigation in terms of the publicly available documents, police reports, you'll find some inconsistencies that would basically cast her in the light as the person to be believed. with all due respect to the fact that an investigation is ongoing as we're told. Well, we are very comfortable with our belief that what we're saying happened with Paige Griffin has happened. At the same time, I want to emphasize how important it is that the treatment afterward by Cal State is just as bad, because that's what's continuing. And frankly, even worse. That's the reason she's not back at work. So.
Is the suspect a superior?
No, he's not. That's a good question. Thank you for asking. The subject is not a superior. The subject is someone that works in another department that has easy access to the facilities management department through open doors, and he is a person that knows of our client, and the client knows of that person.
Had he ever made any advances as far as asking you out on a date or anything like that?
Our belief is that there are sexually suggestive comments, and there are things that are said that should not be said at work. And to be perfectly frank, as someone at work trying to keep her job, she has picked her battles on that, but there has been reporting before of those types of issues, but nothing made it into a formal response by Cal State.
And what, and I know you don't really want to go here, but what can you say in the interest of full disclosure about what this, previous bad mark or whatever it was? Does it have anything to do with this particular individual, or?
It didn't keep her, no, it does not. And whatever it is, I'll say this, it didn't keep her from being able to work competently from home for a year and a half. And whatever it may be, and they'll perhaps spin it however they want to, it's not something that should keep her from working in a safe environment now. And remember, we have sought and continue to seek accommodation that would even allow her to work in another section. She doesn't have to necessarily work remotely. There are people in that job category. There are several of those, maybe not all of the 170 positions that we think are open right now have that job classification, but we know that there are several that do.
Are you aware? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, and just to be clear, that's the reason why the admins at the university would not allow Ms. Griffin to work remotely because of this?
We've heard whisperings of that in our conversations. There's a little bit of bobbing and weaving as it pertains to that, but they may say it, and so that's why I'm mentioning it. So.
And the perpetrator, do you know if he had any prior history of doing this to other women?
Other than her situation, that's what we know about for sure in terms of the previous thing that she reported. Don't know for sure whether there were previous things as it pertains to this particular individual.
And do you know how long he's been working there?
I don't. No.
And you said you believe he's on paid leave.
We believe that he's on paid leave. It's been said otherwise, but we believe that he is on paid leave, yes. Now, admittedly, paid leave can be appropriate when someone is being investigated. I mean, in another world, not that I'm necessarily here to talk about this, I actually have another case at Cal State San Bernardino where the client is on paid leave. She shouldn't be on leave at all, right? But there is a process, and people, as part of the collective bargaining agreement, are put on paid leave. I understand that, but the irony is not lost that she had to fight hard to move up from having disciplinary action brought against her to being on unpaid leave while this other person is on paid leave. So it's more about what's happening to her, really. I understand that for that individual, but I don't understand it as it pertains to her. Any other questions?
Were there any other incidents as far as forcible sexual assault beyond this one?
What we know about and what we're confident talking about are the things that we've shared.
On March 1st?
On March 1st, yes.
And
Any other
what's
questions?
Ms. Griffin, city of residence?
I believe it's, and in the Empire City. So. Okay. Thank you all very much. Everyone have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.